4.10 Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamupashitaha Bhavo Gnana Tapasa Bhuta Madbhavamagataha. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Purport. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the supreme absolute truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge and eternally blissful. What Prabhupada is saying is that those who are materialists, they are so stuck in this bodily conception. That means that they think everything is linked to the body. Body is the central theme for them. And for them, understanding of body is that material body. They don't have any conception of any other type of body. So, and this body takes birth, death, etc. So they can't understand the personal nature of absolute truth, which is not material. So their complete understanding is only limited to the material conception. So they cannot even imagine that there's a transcendental body. So they can't understand that there's a transcendental body. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep the same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. So for such materialistic men, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. So that is why the whole Vishwarupa in Bhagavatam, also second canto, first is Vishwarupa. For those who are grossly attached to this material world, something big and vast and unimaginable is what they associate with supreme. So the gigantic material manifestation, which is the Brihat Vishwarupa, is what is recommended to them because they can understand the personal form. Consequently, they consider the supreme to be impersonal because it's huge, vast, super powerful, and it can't be a person because person means this body dies, limitations, all these. So they can't consider the supreme to be person. So they will simply consider him as impersonal. He is strength, power, shakti. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them because they think that after liberation, again, same type of body they are thinking. They can't think that there is a different type of body available. So it frightens them. When they're informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again. They already dukkhalayam ashashvatam. They don't want to be person, but they can't understand that spiritual person is different from material person. And so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void because it doesn't have any personality there. There's no person involved. So merging is safer for them. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of the ocean, which merge into the ocean. So say like bubbles merge into the ocean. So we are also small part and parcel of Lord. So we'll merge into the Lord, who's like the ocean. That is the highest perfection of spiritual existence, attainable without individual personality. Because after that, it is all personality, right? So Brahman, then Paramatma is also personality. Then Bhagavan is also personality. But the highest one can achieve is Brahman, when with the impersonal conception. This is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Fearful, because they don't want to become persons. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all. No, this is even worse. Being embarrassed by so many theories and contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Shunyavad. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore they do not give attention to spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into supreme spiritual cause And some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. So one is materialistic, the second one wants to merge into Brahman, third one thinks everything is void. This last class of men take the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and their affective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. One has to get rid of all three stages of material consciousness, which are attachment to material life, fear of spiritual personal identity, and conception of void that arises from the frustration in life. To get free from these three stages of material concept of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of the devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of Godhead. Prabhupada is suddenly taking us to top level. So he's saying that, these three stages, material concept of life, being afraid of, fear of spiritual personal identity, and conception of void. All of this arises from frustration in life. And in Krishna Prema, there is no frustration, because the last stage here is bhava. And it is blissful. It is blissful. According to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service, Ado Shraddha Tatah Sadhu Sangha, Athak Bhajana Kriya, Tatho Nartha Nivritti Syat, Tatho Nishta Ruchis Tataha, Atha Saktis Tato Bhavas, Tatha Prema Bhujantati, Sadhakana Mayam Premna, Pradurbhave Bhavet Kramaha. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste leads one forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love for God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. So we should understand that we need to go through all these various stages. Shraddha. We have Shraddha, so we came into Krishna consciousness associated with devotees. Then that is Sadhu Sangha, and then ultimate Sadhu Sangha is being initiated by spiritual master. Then we do Bhajana Kriya. Then we start the process of devotion service under the guidance of the Guru. Then we come to Anartha Nivritti. All the anarthas have to be destroyed. We have to get rid of all the anarthas. Then we come to Nishta. Nishta is fixed. We should be fixed. Okay. Once we are fixed in our sadhana, fixed in our understanding of Krishna consciousness, fixed in faith, everything, Nishta about everything. Nishta means fixed, being fixed. Then we will get Ruchi. Then we'll experience some kind of taste. When we become fixed in the practice of devotional service, then we experience the taste of devotional service. Once we experience the taste of devotional service, then we will have some attachment, asakti, or affection, attachment. When after that attachment to Krishna and Krishna service, then there is bhava. Bhava is the preliminary stage of prema. It is like the morning ray of prema. Very, what should you say? Weak, but going towards prema. The initial signal. Tata prema abhyudanchati. Sadhakanam ayam premnaha pradurbhave bhavet kramaha. So this goes on gradually. Bhavet kramaha. In the prema stage, there is constant engagement in transcendental loving service of the Lord. So Prabhupada is saying that, in comparison to this material concept of life, conception of void, etc., which is all painful, this is full of transcendental loving service. So by the slow process of devotional service, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrations that result in void philosophy. Then one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. So beautiful this is. Practice of bhakti will take us directly to the abode of Supreme Lord. So the important stage for us initially is anartha nivriti. That is the longest, or the most, takes the most time for cleaning to happen. We have to be very, very, we should be actively working on removing all our anarthas. Anartha means anartha. Anartha. Artha means which is required. Anartha means which is not required. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. This is anartha. So anartha has to be, nivritti has to happen. Pravritti means increasing. Nivritti means decreasing or removing. So that anarthas have to be removed. So kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, we should not encourage them. We should not allow them to increase. These are weeds. We should pluck them out. So for which we have to associate with devotees, we have to constantly be thinking about where our anarthas, what our current anarthas are, what should we work on. And when we are chanting, we beg for mercy from Krishna, that that he can, by his mercy, take us out of this stage of anarthas. So anartha also goes on till bhava. Till bhava stage, anarthas will remain. So we cannot think that, okay, tomorrow, day after, in 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, anarthas will go. Anarthas will keep on, will continue to be with us for a long time. But it should keep on reducing. It cannot come in the way of our nishta. So when we come to nishta, there are anarthas, but it doesn't trouble us. It allows us to be fixed in our devotional service. So though there are anarthas, it's not to be considered as a blockage, right? But at the same time, it should not be ignored. It should be taken seriously. So we do anartha nivriti, then we come to nishtha, then we come to ruchi, then we will develop some taste. And then attachment to Krishna and Krishna consciousness, then bhava and prema. And the simple process, just simply surrender to the Guru, try to please him, and we achieve perfection. And we reach a stage which normally is very difficult to achieve. Prema is like highest accomplishment in this, possible at all in this material world. Any questions? And if you would have heard this stages of bhakti, but if you have any questions, we can.
This one being freed from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality. So this fear is because what the Mayavadis say, that we are actually having the miseries because we are engaged in this body, and as soon as the body is destroyed, the oneself merges into identity. So these people are fearful, right? Not the devotees, not the general class.
No. Fearful is those who don't understand that there is something called as transcendental body. They don't understand that there is a spiritual body. Even those who are ignorant, even those who are Gnostic can be fearful, right? Like, because they don't know what is there out there. So they think, okay, I have material body is painful. Now, if the same material body is going to be given to me in Vaikuntha, what is the point? I'm going to continue to suffer. So I don't want it. So they don't have an understanding that there is something called as a transcendental body. Anybody who belongs to that class. Okay. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So like after like Anartha Nivritti, like Nishta stage, after when we reach Nishta stage, actually fall down is very less possibility.
Still, bhava, there is possibility of fall down.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, bhava we know, but still possibility of percentage is less, or how it is?
Yeah, it keeps on decreasing, but see, Maya is so powerful that we don't have to worry about percentage. Even there is a slight possibility of fall down, there's a possibility of fall down, right? Because it's free will, we can go wrong anytime, and if we go wrong, we just fall, right? And that is the reason why we keep highlighting association of devotees. And what kind of association? Association doesn't mean that, like just once in a while when we meet devotees, we just talk to them. Not like that. Association means dadati pratigrunnati guhyam akhyati priti tumte bojete cheva shadvida priti lakshanam. Shadvida priti lakshanam. Priti lakshanam. So this means that we should be constantly in touch with devotees, and by doing what? Dadati pratigrunnati. Give gifts, receive gifts. Guhyam Makyati Prijati, Guhyam, confidential things, discuss with them, either confidential from Krishna's Leela perspective, confidential from one's own personal sadhana perspective, Guhyam Makyati Prijati. Then Bhungte Bhojayate, just give prasadam, take prasadam. So like this, we have to constantly engage with devotees. This is what we need to do. We should be inviting people home, you know, and building relations with devotees. Of course, this is not with everybody. You can't do this with everybody, but we have to have, those identified devotees in our life, under whose guidance we think we will progress. And then we should associate with them in this way. When we do that, then even though these anarthas are there, beyond anartha nivritti also, we will not lose track, because they will help us. They will hold us in place and make sure that we make progress. So that is the reason that association is so important. Without association, we will fall. If association is there, devotees will protect us. What is this fall? Fall basically means that we will just fall out of bhakti, right? Get stuck somewhere in this material world. So yeah, I mean, it is, chances are less and less, but even one little possibility is so scary. I mean, after all this, we have come to this platform bhakti, and we know that there is nothing else more valuable than this. Just imagine, I mean, we should not even imagine, right? Falling down from this position and going back to the material world, even if there's a remote possibility, it is so scary, isn't it? So we should keep the association of devotees. Pray for mercy. That is why all actually great devotees, what they pray? They pray, Krishna, you put me anywhere, but I should be in the association of devotees. This is what they pray. Because it's so important. Association is so very important. Okay?
Super, thank you.
Okay. Move on to next verse 4.11. This is very, very important. ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहं मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्या पार्थ सर्वशः. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Buddha. So Krishna is saying in the previous verses, saying that one takes full refuge of Krishna. One takes full refuge, but one should take full refuge. But each of us, every jiva, has his or her own free will, which they will use, and they'll surrender to different extents. They will not surrender fully. So Krishna is saying, I accept all of that. Whoever surrenders to whatever extent they surrender, I accept it and I reward them accordingly. If somebody surrendered 10%, I will reward them 10%. And reward means what? Bringing them closer to him. If somebody surrendered 100%, then he will 100% bring them close to him. That Krishna is saying everyone follows my paths in all respects. I mean, either irrespective of whether they're coming towards me or going away from me, all that is my path only. Because eventually all of it will bring them to me only. But it's just matter of time. Something takes too long, something takes very short time, etc. Everyone is searching for Krishna in the different aspects of his manifestations. Different aspects of his manifestations. So if you're looking for anything in this material world, that is also Krishna. But we just don't know. If you're looking for some material happiness, that is also Krishna. But we don't know. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is partially realized in his impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence and as the all-pervading Supersoul dwelling within everything, including the particles of atoms. So Krishna is present as Paramatma in all atoms. But whether Brahman or Paramatma realization, that is just a partial realization. It's not the full realization of Supreme Lord. But Krishna is fully realized only by his pure devotees. Nobody else can realize him. Consequently, Krishna is the object of everyone's realization, and thus anyone and everyone is satisfied according to one's desire to have him. They're satisfied. So, for example, if somebody doesn't want Krishna, they're satisfied with not having Krishna. That is also a path laid out by Krishna, because he has to give path for everybody. He is, because he is the father, he is the provider. He has to provide for everybody, because otherwise he'll become impartial. So he provides for that also. If somebody doesn't want Krishna, and he will remain satisfied with it. Now, like most people in this material world, they don't want Krishna. They want to enjoy independent of Krishna, and in the same situation that we were in a few years back. And Krishna allows. Krishna accepts. Somebody wants to hate Krishna. Krishna allows for that also. And somebody wants to love Krishna. Krishna allows for that also. So, according to one's desire, to have him or not have him, both he will accept. In the transcendental world, also Krishna reciprocates with his pure devotees in the transcendental attitude, just as the devotee wants him. One devotee may want Krishna as supreme master, another as his personal friend, another as his son, and still another as his lover. Krishna rewards all the devotees equally, according to their different intensities of love for him. In the material world, the same reciprocations of feelings are there, and they are equally exchanged by the Lord with the different types of worshippers. The pure devotees, both here and in the transcendental abode, associate with him in person and are able to render personal service to the Lord, and thus derive transcendental bliss in his loving service. As for those who are impersonalists and who want to commit spiritual suicide by annihilating the individual existence of the living entity and then merging with Brahman, Krishna helps also by absorbing them into his effulgence. Such impersonalists do not agree to accept the eternal blissful personality of Godhead. Consequently, they cannot relish the bliss of transcendental personal service to the Lord, having extinguished their individuality. Some of them who are not firmly situated even in the impersonal existence return to this material world to exhibit their dormant desires for activity. So Bhagavatam verse says that, because they are not satisfied. They are not satisfied there. So they return to this material world because there's no activity in Brahmajyoti. They are not admitted into the spiritual planets. So we should understand this very nicely. Because they are not admitted into spiritual planets, they can fall down. And even though they've realized Brahman, but they've not entered the spiritual planets. They've just entered the spiritual sky. But they're again given a chance to act on the material planets. For those who are fruity workers, the Lord awards the desired results of their prescribed duties as Yagneshwara. So all paths depend on Krishna. And those who are yogis seeking mystic powers are awarded such powers. That is also given by Krishna. In other words, everyone is dependent for success upon his mercy alone, and all kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees of success on the same path. So one might be millions of kilometers away, one might be just few kilometers away. It's like that, right? Everything is on the path. Everybody is on that same path. And the difference is somebody is too far, somebody is near. That's the difference. Unless, therefore, one comes to the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness, all attempts remain imperfect, as is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kamo udaratihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whether one is without desire, condition of devotees, or is desirous of all fruitive results, or is after liberation, one should with all efforts, so this is the most important thing here, tivrena, with all efforts, bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param, one should try to worship the Supreme Lord for complete perfection, culminating in Krishna consciousness. So we should put all efforts for achieving complete perfection. So this is very, very important. This Tivra Bhakti is what most people lack. And that is why when we talk about Tivra Bhakti, very few people stick to hearing, this kind of message, because people want it easy. There is no easy way to achieve this supreme goal. It requires sacrifice, it requires commitment, it requires consistent efforts, consistent struggle with Maya in various forms. Sometimes they're in the form of devotees, sometimes they're in the form of non-devotees, all kinds. So we should be ready to fight, struggle, and not aggressively, like with humility. All struggle in the devotee's life has to be with humility. There will be struggle. And the more we struggle with nice, displaying nice humility, Krishna is pleased. See, we should understand one thing. If we surrender ourselves to Krishna mentally, even once, Krishna is completely in charge of our life, right? And he will do the needful. We should never lose track of this. We should never forget this, that Krishna is behind us. Situations in our life might not really allow us to think that way. It might almost look to us saying that, oh, Krishna has given up on me, but it's not true. Krishna never gives up on his devotees. He will stand behind us and pull us towards him. Okay, and every situation that is there in our life is his mercy, because he knows what is required for us to come to him, and he will do the needful. So our only job is to just remain fixed, humble, and like I said, be under guidance of right kind of devotees and work through all the challenges. I was in this illusion when initially when I came into Krishna consciousness, saying all problems will stop. It was a big illusion. Problems will not stop. The way we will deal with problems will change. And eventually, problems will stop, but that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And when will Krishna stop all the problems? When we stop getting affected by these problems, Krishna will stop the problems, because then there's no further learning required. We've already cleansed ourselves. Then he will not have to put us through problems, because we have learned whatever we have to learn, and we are now ready to give up this material world and go back to him. Then problems will stop automatically. But till then, problems will be there, but not karmic, not like normal karma phala, not like just ordinary, like for ordinary people who are also suffering. But it might look like we are suffering similar to them, but it's a huge gulf of difference. Our suffering is guided, completely controlled, direct control of Krishna under his supervision. But the suffering of the general people in this material world is just by prakriti. Material nature is taking care. Krishna is not even bothered. He is really not bothered. Udasinavat, Bhagavad Gita, he says, like almost like indifferent. But for devotees, he is absolutely hooked on to us in terms of making sure that we will achieve perfection, that we will reach him. So he's standing behind us. We should never forget that. Situations might seem very testing, trying, but Krishna is with us. We should never forget that. We should never give up hope. So this is very, very important. And for that, this Tivra Bhakti is important. Without Tivra Bhakti, we can't do this. Now, of course, like in the previous words we discussed, right? And it has to be under the, we should be under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Once Prabhupada asked disciples, saying that, which is more important, book Bhagavad or person Bhagavad? Everybody said book Bhagavad, book Bhagavad. Why? Oh, because it has all the knowledge, it is there with us all the time, etc. And so many reasons they give. Prabhupada then he took the ear of, as in he twisted the ear of one of his disciples and he said, person Bhagavad, because book Bhagavad cannot do this, right? Like straightening us up. That requires person Bhagavad. And that is why this whole business of this Ritvik business is, meaningless, because there's no person Bhagavad. Prabhupada himself has said person Bhagavat is required, right? So that pure devotee who's going to be there, and when we are going wrong, he's going to, like twist our ears and pull us up and make sure that we follow the right path. So absolutely important that we get initiated. For those who are on the path, please pray, because this is not like we can't get any force. There is no force entry into Vaikuntha. We can't force ourselves into Vaikuntha or into Goloka. So we have to pray for mercy, pray to Krishna, saying that please let me be accepted by your pure devotee, and please pray for it, because it's not our right. We can't say it is my right, so I have to get it. No, it doesn't work that way. It is Krishna's Krishna's will. If he wants, we will get. And so, but we should put the right effort. We should try, and we should get initiated sooner than later. And depend on Krishna, depend on Guru, and make steady progress in association with devotees. This whole reading session is actually only geared towards this, because initially I had to talk to so many devotees, and I thought, it's really practically very difficult to give individual time to each devotee. So I thought, what is the best way to be in touch with everybody is one common platform session, right? And that way we will also understand Prabhupada's writings, and at the same time, devotees will have their doubts cleared. If they have questions, they should ask. That is the whole idea of this reading session. But unfortunately, most devotees don't make it to the live class. So how can they ask questions? Because without that, there won't be much benefit. There won't be much benefit. So this platform is to try and give each other the required association we need. To be able to help us to deal with all these kind of problems, challenges that we will definitely face. Everybody will face. Nature of problems will be different because our natures are different. So don't, that is one more thing. You should never look at somebody else, some other devotee, and say, see, he doesn't have this problem, I have this problem. Because he will have some other problem which is important for him, and Krishna knows that. So we don't have to become envious of other devotees when we are going through difficult times in life. So this is very important. This is my favorite topic, Tivra Bhakti. That is why in most of, like a common observation for me, in most of my classes that I give, numbers only keep dwindling. They keep reducing. Numbers don't increase. Because how much can people hear Tivra, Tivra, Tivra every day, every class? So people will say, okay, it's better to be away from this. But anyway, that's the only way we can succeed. So there's no shortcut to this. So we have to say, we have to practice, and that's the only way to become perfect. Okay, I'll stop here. If anybody has any questions.
Yeah, bro, one question I had. So Prabhupada has written that for those who are into the Brahma Jyoti, they return back to the material world because their dormant desires might still remain.
For activities, not material desires. Desire for activities. Because the nature of soul is to be active. Soul cannot be dormant. Soul cannot be without action.
Yeah.
Soul requires action. If you don't give it spiritual action, it will take material action.
Yeah. So
They'll
this
have to come
action,
back. Yeah.
so this action which the soul does, which was hanging in the Brahmajyoti, that action can be even material and it can even be spiritual, is it?
No. Point I'm making is that you have to give soul activity, action, right? Soul can either be given material activity or it can be given spiritual activity. Now, Brahma Jyoti is no activity. But for them to go towards spiritual activity, they have to accept the personal form of the Lord, which they cannot. So what is the only option remaining to them for them is material activity. So they come back to this material world, engage in social work.
Yeah. So the question is that why do they even go to this temporary state? Like, what is the
But they
advantage?
don't know that it is temporary. They think it is permanent. They think this is perfection. Oh, so many of my relatives, they keep trying to, preach in Brahman, wish this, what is that? I keep forgetting their books. Something, this Shankara followers. They have some books that they read because, I mean, my family is basically followers of Shankara. So they keep trying to tell me, saying that, this is the perfection. This form and all is temporary. Lord doesn't have any form. It is temporary just to attract us. But eventually when we become perfect, we become Brahman. So they don't even think that there is anything superior to this. Only when they go there and I mean, yeah, but it's not like they will realize it. They will go and they'll come back. And again, they're given opportunity, but they might still not associate with devotees, right? So it's a very scary situation, right? Where you are 100% wrong, but you are 100% think that you are right. You think that you are 100% right when you're 100% wrong, right? Nobody can wake us up in this slumber. Anybody who tries to wake us up, we will tell them that no, you are wrong, I am right. So who can help them? It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, actually, so doubt was that why Lord wastes such soul's time, but looks like soul is wasting its
No,
own.
Lord doesn't do anything. Na datte kasachit papam na chaiva sukritam vibhu. Krishna says, I am not responsible for any jiva's actions, suffering, or happiness. It is all his. It is a free will, proper use of free will or misuse of free will. That's it. Lord is not, he is not involved in this. He's not engaged in our desires. He will facilitate. But he's also mercifully given us the way out of nonsense and getting stuck, right? But for which also we require our free will. That is the reason why, again, association becomes so important.
Yeah, no, it's clear.
Okay, anybody else has any questions? Otherwise, we'll stop here for today. 2 slokas a day, hopefully, or 2 slokas in 2 days. We can hope and pray that we can continue in devotional service being fixed. Okay. Nothing else means we'll stop here. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.